What's up everyone, it's me Oi, and today I'm bringing you an update for my Whirlwind build for Season 11, Season of Divine Intervention. This season, we actually going back to Earthquakes. Pre-Whirlwind is not that great, and one of the biggest problems it has it's that it doesn't scale too well with the Sanctification mechanic. It doesn't really have anything going for it. And kind of on the same ball, Dust Devils also struggles a bit with Sanctification, scaling with it, doesn't really have anything good to get, and it's also not the best, although it's slightly better than Pure Whirlwind. Lucky Hit, also not that great, although it's slightly better than we were expecting, because with the extra stats that we got, it actually benefits that build a lot more, but it's not enough because you're losing way too much Lucky Hit. But yeah guys, we're gonna be playing Earthquake again. You know, we had one season without Earthquakes, we have to go back to them. They still feel really nice to play, especially to farm, since you leave your Earthquakes behind you and you just destroy everything, right? So let's get into it. I'm gonna be covering the seasonal team, the skills, the build variants, everything like that's gonna be on the timestamps down below. So yeah, let's get into it. Starting off with the seasonal theme, when it comes to Divine Gifts, there's not much to go when it comes to them. It's just gonna be, you're gonna take the ones that benefit you the most power-wise, which is gonna be the Essence of Lies, gives you a bit of Fortify, Essence of Screams, a bit of extra resists, Essence of Sin, a bit of extra armor, and Essence of Pain will give you a shield if you ever get too injured. The other ones don't really provide much, that's why we are not using them. This one gives you movement speed. Again, these things don't matter too much. Make sure to look at each one and see what the rewards they have is, and use them accordingly, mostly for the rewards. Unless you're in pit, the downsides don't matter too much. Just make sure you're using the ones that you want more rewards from, right? When it comes to the actual Sanctification, I'm gonna briefly cover it here, and then I'm gonna go into the build variant. We have a special build variant for the Sanctification. Generally speaking, you're looking for fire damage, cooldown reduction, very nice strength. Any sort of strength is good, and all stats, kind of what you're looking for on the low end. When it comes to aspects, there's a bunch of them that are good for the build. Getting the ones already on the build is also good. We're gonna cover that in a bit. When it comes to the skills that we're gonna be using for this build, of course, Whirlwind. Whirlwind is just gonna be there to generate a bit of resource. It's also gonna be how you proc, for example, Starless for the Mythic. It's just gonna be moving around with Whirlwind, and it will just spawn Earthquakes for you, right? You realistically only need to take the second passive on Whirlwind, Enhanced Whirlwind, to get a bit more Fury. Other than that, you don't really care about the passives there. The other skill we're gonna be using is lunging. Lunging is gonna be here because it's gonna be one of the easiest ways for you to get berserking on the build without going into a Sanctification, stuff like that, without losing any sort of damage. It also actually gives you a bit more damage because you get to proc Belligerence. This is not mandatory, you don't need to play lunging. You can just play, for example, with Iron Skin if you want to, or lunging is, you can easily swap lunging for other stuff that you prefer, if that's your preference. This is just a 12% damage multiplier, 3 ranks on here. It's not that big of a deal. That is for the Mythic setup. When you're leveling and when you're in the starter variant or the Ancestral variant, I heavily recommend you run lunging. When you get into the Mythic, it doesn't really matter much at that point. If you don't have any resource issues, just don't use it if you don't like it. Personally, I'll be using it, but that's up to you. Other than that, all 3 shouts, of course. We're gonna be rolling Cry, Unstoppable, a bit of Fortify. Honestly, nowadays Fortify is kind of meh, but the big thing, a lot of movement speed and a lot of Fear generation, especially when you get into when you start speed farming stuff. Things just die a bit too fast. That Fear generation will be really nice to keep your Fury up. Warcry gives you a big damage and berserking every now and again, really cool. Challenging Shout, really defensive, really good defensive layer for you, really nice. And of course our ultimate, Call of the Ancients. Call of the Ancients rank 5 gives you 50% movement speed. Not only that, once we actually get into the variants here, you're gonna see that we're gonna be running Ariat's Bearing. Ariat's Bearings just gives you another guy that's sleeping around and creating earthquakes. Really nice. You're scaling his damage really well as well, so, you know, big. Also gives you 30% damage and 20% attack speed. You don't care about attack speed, but hey, it's there. And of course, our Keystone Unconstrained, there's nothing else for earthquakes or dust devils or anything like that. Just Unconstrained is the best way to go. So, Paragon this season. A good amount of things changed on it, especially there's a lot more nodes that we want. The ones with like life and resist and armor, they're really important this season, so we want to make sure to get all of them, which means it's gonna be really hard to get everything early on. Until you start getting to 200 and something Paragon, you're not gonna get everything, because that's just kinda the most efficient way to go about it. As you can see, here on the starter Paragon board, what I mostly care about is getting all the legendary nodes. These are not completely updated yet. We have not been able to data mine the update. That's only gonna come in probably, like with the secret they have, it's probably gonna be a bit delayed, so these nodes might not be fully updated. But this is a 45% multiplier, this is a 60% multiplier, 60% here again, and 45% here again, right? So we V-lined for them quite early. Once we actually go over the variant section, you're gonna see that I kinda break it down a bit more so you know where to go, but it's really important to get these legendary nodes early. Other than that, you can notice that I'm only running 3 out of the 5 buildable glyphs. The reason for that is, early on, you're not gonna be leveling all of them anyway that early. So whatever, right? Also, they don't really benefit you that much until you start leveling them up, and it's much more important to grab the defenses and the legendary nodes. They're just way more effective to give you power than the glyphs are. The only glyphs we are running, first of all, getting it right in the beginning, is Exploit. Whirlwind has a really hard time applying Vulnerable. Exploit just basically gives you 75% uptime on Vulnerable for free, assuming the enemy even survives more than 3 seconds, right? It's really nice. Actually 60% uptime. It's really nice considering we really struggle, especially early on with the Vulnerable uptime. You really want to get this going early, so make sure to level it first. The other one we're gonna be taking is Rumble. Even though whenever you level it up it will be much better, Rumble is still a powerhouse damage wise. So, you know, we're taking it. Lastly, the other glyph we're taking is Marshall. The reason for that is, well, reduced cooldown for our ultimate. You're gonna be using our shouts a lot, and getting that extra help with getting cooldown on your ultimate is gonna be really nice. Other than that, like I said, we're not even taking any damage stuff early on, right? As you can see, I'm not really taking damage nodes that are just 1 point away. I'm not even taking them. I'm really just beelining for those defenses. Those defenses are really gonna be super important, so make sure to get them. Now, once we actually go into the Ancestral one, it stays mostly the same. As you can see, now we start getting the other ones, the other glyphs, which are gonna be Challenger and Might. This is just a really great multiplier for two-handed, and Challenger is just a really nice multiplier overall for basically any build. Every build freaking uses this. It is what I can't speak today. Every build freaking uses it. It is what it is. Mythic, again, just taking more damage here and there. All of this is taking damage. All 3 of this is taking damage, right? Everything here is for the damage. And the last one here, Max, no one is realistically gonna get to at this point, but again, it's just taking damage. At this point, you're just taking damage everywhere you can, and a bit of life per second, because why the hell not, you know? Yeah, but that's it. Alright, let's actually go about the gear that we're gonna be using and talking a bit about the variants. If you want like a full breakdown, probably even more than what I'm talking about, you have the Bible here, okay? Just if you really want to know why you're using certain stuff, just, you know, it's here. But the short and sweet version, here it's gonna be, first of all, armor. Try to get strength max life and the resist on the armor, and then you must not masterwork, you temper the resists you're missing, right? When it comes to the chest piece and the pants, the 4th stat, ideally armor, just focus on the 3 stats above, right? Those are the most important ones. And when it comes to the helmet, ideally you want to get cooldown as well, but again, just try to get those 3 main stats to get the resist, to get the strength, to get the life. It's really important to get those going. Defensive wise, when it comes to the aspects, we're gonna be running might here. This is why I tell you to just use lunging on this starter variants. It's really important. It's a really great way to get some defenses going. The other one, Bulkatus, you just create an earthquake, 30% damage multi, not damage multi, damage reduction, really great. And disobedience, getting a lot of armor is really important. Armor that applies to both physical and any other sort of elemental damage. It applies to everything equally, so it's really good to get. When it comes to your boots, you're just gonna run Ghost Walkers. Doesn't really matter the aspect you run here. Just try to get strength and movement speed, and fear per second helps a lot. Life is also great to run, and importantly, this is actually really important. People might be, oh, it's just earthquake size, doesn't matter. Wait, what happened here? Oh, we went into the planner. By the way, fun fact, if you click on these things, you can jump into the planner if you want to see the behind the scenes of things. But like I was saying, just get the life if you can. Oh no, that's not what I was saying. I was talking about earthquake size. Earthquake size is actually really important. A lot of people kind of dismiss this. It's really important to maximize your damage to get a bit of earthquake size whenever you can. Another place where we actually also have a bit of earthquake size, it's going to be on our gloves, because again, it's really important. When it comes to the gloves, rings and amulet, you're really trying to go for a bit of cooldown, crit chance and strength. If you can get the life, really important to get it. If you can't, it is what it is, but those 3 initial ones are really important. Earthquake size, of course, on the gloves. When it comes to the amulets, you're going to be trying to get cooldown for Call of the Ancients to get it going to a really low cooldown. It's really important to try to get there. Now, lastly, stats for the weapons. You're just really going for strength, max life, and damage. The reason you go for damage instead of crit damage or vuln is because you don't really have great uptime right now. So just try to get damage. It will most likely be better than the other 2 options. Lastly, you can get crit damage or vuln here. Personally, I feel like getting that life on it, or even getting resource cost reduction, will be much more helpful. When it comes to the tempers, just for earthquakes to cast twice, try to get this close to 100. You don't quite need to get 100, but close to 100 is really important. And then the last part, oh, we did the thing again. The last part is that you try to get a bit of, a couple of ranks to all up if you can, will increase your damage a lot. Now, when it comes to our offensive aspects, we're gonna of course be running the earthquakes aspect. This is just insane multiplier for earthquakes, right? It's a 120 on top of a 120. It's big, it's massive. The other one, really big as well, it's just a 120, you know? Fisher's really great. And of course, you're gonna be running executioners. Those are the staple earthquake aspects. Other than that, we're gonna be running anger management. It's not updated yet on the planner. This is also gonna give you permanent berserker time, while at the same time giving you 30% damage. It's really great. When it comes to the gloves, we're gonna be running Vehement. This helps with the cooldown for ultimate and gives us damage whenever you use it. The other aspect we're running offensively, it's gonna be Fierce Winds. You don't need to run this if you're having a bit of resource issues, as I covered down here. You can try and get Berserk Fury instead of Dust Devils. Berserk Fury is really nice, especially if you're running anger management, because they kind of just feed into each other. It's amazing. If you're having resource issues, that's an option, but honestly you shouldn't have, because we're gonna be running the resource power, the resource aspects. Vocalize Empowerment. Basically, whenever you have a shout active, you get 18. This is the reason I kind of put it on the amulet, right? You get 18 resource per second whenever you have a shout active. And if you are lucky enough to have Bolt Shifting, you don't really have to worry too much about cooldown, especially the cooldown you have on your gear. With bold shifting, you should have your shout like 5-6 seconds. It's really nice. If you don't have bold shifting, make sure to stagger the use of your shouts. Basically, use Rallying Cry 7 seconds after you're using Rallying Cry. Whenever it's coming down, use the challenging shout. After that, use War Cry. The reason you do that is so you can keep this up, so you can just be spinning as much as you want. Remember to use lunging, but you know, it's there. Now, one thing that I have here on this planner that I basically break it down the Paragon board like 5 different steps so you know where to go early on. It's really important to go the like on the max roll planner, right? Let me open this up. On the max roll planner, you already have where you want to go early on, right? You already have like you go to this board first, you go to this board second, you go to this board third, you go to this board fourth, right? But and this one fifth, right? But it doesn't tell the whole story. That's why I break it down here. Here, 96 Paragon, super early, right? Just like I said earlier, you're just going for the legendary nodes, getting a lot of power there. Make sure to get the exploit one. Both the Rumble and the Marshal you can kind of skip a bit, but getting this one for the vulnerable is really big. Make sure to get this one going early. Other than that, just follow it along, right? You go up here, bam, a bit more defenses wherever you can. Early on, you just go for damage. Now you're going up in tiers, you need the defenses, you get those defenses. More defenses, these ones. The first ones were more about life. Getting that life is really important. Life is kind of much better than defenses overall. And now we're investing a bit in defenses on the Paragon, right? All the defense nodes. Now we go for the more expensive life ones that are a bit further away that you have to spend more points to get. And lastly, you get the other defense ones that are a bit far away and you have to spend points, right? Make sure to use this one, just it's much easier for you to follow along. So yeah. Ancestral. We're gonna be getting a couple uniques into the build here. First of all, the one for the earthquakes, Mantle Fury. It's really great. It's just a big damage multiplier. It's also very excellent when it comes to defenses. Gives you armor, defensive stance is also very nice. The other unique that's really cool on this one is Ariat's Bearing. Ariat's Bearing, like I said earlier, you're gonna have another buddy just jumping with you and creating earthquakes, really helps with clear. Also, it basically just fully takes care of Call of the Ancients cooldown, meaning you can even drop the you can drop the temper from Call of the Ancients cooldown to damage while berserking. If you're not lucky enough to get one with cooldown, don't worry, just keep the cooldown on the ring for Call of the Ancients in the temper until you can get one. It doesn't really matter. This additive damage is not that big of a deal. And since we're losing a bunch of stuff here, you're gonna want Earthquake size on your amulet, right? But yeah, the other unique we're gonna be running Fist of Fate. This is just generally a very good unique for almost any build. Really big multipliers for them. And Ugly Bastard. Now you might be wondering, how the hell are you running Ugly Bastard? Why the hell are you running it? You're not running Wrath the Berserker, right? Well, we don't really care. Wrath the Berserker, what it does is that with Ugly Bastard, it converts your damage to fire and does a bit of AoE damage, whatever, right? It converts your damage to fire. The thing is, thanks to Incendiary Fissures or Earthquakes already do fire damage, so Ugly Bastard is just a 60% multiplier. The stats don't really matter. Try to get Gian Aggressive Resists, try to get, Prolific Fury is decent, but the stats don't really matter too much. Just get one with a good damage roll and whatever, right? That's kind of what you want. The last unique we're gonna be running is gonna be Rama Ling Dong Dong, right? Rama is just gonna be a staple on almost every single build this season. Not all of them, but on almost all of the builds. It's just crazy unique. Now it applies. I know on the patch notes it's sad it doesn't apply anymore, but that was just fixing some wording. I don't know, it was confusing as hell, but they have already confirmed that it still applies to every skill, no matter if you're using Rama or not. Personally, I'm not a fan of it when it comes to a design kind of standpoint, but it does make Barb stronger if it's working this way, so, I'll take it. Make sure to go for one with, at the very least, like 0.45%. Getting the effect high is really important. GA does not matter, the item power does not matter, okay? Just get one with a high effect, and then you start worrying about getting one with a high effect and the GA, right? Just getting that effect at least 0.45, ideally 0.49, 0.50, but you know, 0.45 is already good enough for you to start using Ramaling Dong. But yeah, when it comes to the boards, nothing to talk about here. At this point, you should really start using the incenses and the potions. Really will speed up your leveling. I also have a breakdown of what you're swapping, what you're using, every single unique if you really want to know, and a bit of a tidbit if you're having a bit of Fury management problems, right? Alright, Mythic. Here on the Mythic, we have the Mythic and the Sanctified. We're gonna be covering the Mythic early on. We're gonna be getting 3 Mythics into the build, alright? The Mythics are gonna be Perdition. The reason you run Perdition instead of Ugly Bastard is that Perdition just has much better stats for you, right? Movement speed, really nice to get going. This is gonna double down on our Mythic and speed farming, because it doesn't really change anything. At most, you would change the runes, which doesn't really matter. Yeah, so, Perdition. A lot of crit chance. This basically means you don't have to worry about crit chance on your gear at all. Like you can see on the rings. On this one I have, but whatever, right? I don't have crit chance at all on the rings. You don't need it anywhere else. You also have a bunch of crit chance. Like, even if you get the min-roll crit chance, Feats of Fate, you're still crit capped, by the way. So yeah, Perdition is really nice because of that. Lucky Hit doesn't really matter. Ring of the Starless, of course, a staple for any Whirlwind build. A lot of crit chance. Again, the other stats don't matter, we were just running it because it really helps with resource, and it's just a big damage, right? The last one is gonna be Grandfather. Grandfather is especially nice now, since we're running Ramaladness, meaning we can get a lot of benefit from the resource as well. There's a point to discuss here that maybe running a legendary weapon might be slightly better here and there, but Grandfather just means it gives you all the stats, which is much better defensively, because if you're not running Grandfather, especially until you start getting like to the 270 Paragon points or something like that, it's really hard for you to get to cap all the stat requirements for the defensive nodes on the tree, so it's kind of important to get Grandfather for that reason. Again, damage wise, if you're losing, it's barely, it's inconsequential, it doesn't really matter. It also has a lot more HP than a legendary one, so you know, there's that. Another few changes we did here. Of course, we moved the aspects around, you can check that yourself, but the one thing I want to point out here is Fury on Kill. You're gonna be getting this to a point that you're just gonna be killing everything way too fast. Getting that Fury on Kill is gonna really help. You don't really need life on hit at this point. The regen that you get from your shout should be more than enough. The Fury on Kill will make sure that you're actually getting enough resource to keep spinning however much you want. When it comes to the amulet, right? The amulet, yeah, it's gonna be a bit hard for you to get this amulet, alright? It is what it is. This is the best amulet you can get. Do remember, I do, for example, have this amulet as a 750 here. Just run a 750. You can't get a 750 with GA, but the reason I put a 750 here is just so you can know. You look at this, oh, I can use a 750, right? Getting an amulet 750 doesn't really do much for your for the passives. The passives don't go down even a single rank, right? You get slightly less resource, but it doesn't matter, right? If you can get the double passive legendary amulet and you roll the third passive there, even if it's 750, more than good enough. The all resist you lose is meaningless, really. So just get whatever amulet you can. If it's 800, it's ideal, but again, doesn't matter. Just, you know, run with the ones with the most passives you can get on them. Now, sanctifying the gear. This gets super complicated. I do want to add a caveat here. We don't know for sure how things are gonna work out because it completely changed from the PTR, right? For example, now we can get mythics. I didn't put it here. you can potentially run an Ugly Bastard weird and just get her perdition as Sanctification on the Ugly Bastard, right? Because you don't really care about the stats. It's really easy. But I didn't quite put that here because I have no idea if it's gonna be kind of just, you know, finding a mythic goblin or something like that, right? It's gonna be one person in the game that's gonna see it and no one else is, right? We don't really know that. So for now, I'm just recommending fire. I'm gonna be updating this section especially super early on, whenever we know for sure how things are going, what aspects can go where. I'm just assuming right now that you can get most aspects, and the mythics, I'm not even considering them, right? So for now, this is how it's gonna be. Fire on every defensive gear, every armor piece, just get fire. Your earthquakes are fire, remember, right? Just get fire there. Ideally, oh, this one is bugged. I need to go fix that on the planner. Doesn't really matter, just get fire, right? On this ones. On the gloves, you're gonna get some more offensive aspect, but yeah. You can also get some defensive ones. You can get Bulkatas, you can get the armor one. If you're feeling squishy, you shouldn't at this point, but if you're feeling squishy, you can get that. When it comes to the offensive ones, also fire on the boots, right? When it comes to the offensive ones, you're just getting all the offensive aspects you can get. Double earthquake. Again, you can kind of get them whatever, right? Remember that you can kind of get them whatever. It's much better for you to, you know, just trash a bunch of maces, a bunch of 1GA maces, right? Even if the GA is not on the strength, even if the GA is on the crit damage, if you get the double aspect, right, it's much better than having a bit more strength, right? Just make sure to save a bunch of them, temper them, masterwork, and then it's not masterwork now, it's quality, whatever, right? You get what I mean. And just throw them into the shredder and see what you get, right? Just, you know, all the aspects here. You can, I'm gonna have the link down below for the build, right? You can check all of this out. Remember, the aspects don't necessarily need to be in these specific places. These are the ideal places, but they don't need to be here. One thing I do want to point out, we are running Locrons. Locrons is not that good, but not only does it make it much easier than you getting a legendary amulet, but like a legendary amulet, at best, this will vary depending on your stats, but at best it's like 1 to 2% better than a Locrons. And the Locrons with 3 GAs, the legendary amulet is not going to be better, assuming you have the aspects, right? It's just not going to be better. And the good thing here, the good thing here is that you don't really care about the aspect. Again, thanks to Perdition, thanks to Starless, Fists of Fate, you have way too much crit. Way too much crit, right? So you don't really care about that. So just get the mineral one with the correct GAs. Resource is the most important one. Crit damage, if you want damage or stats, really nice. But yeah, it's just, I'm gonna be updating this. I'm not gonna go full deep here because I expect this to be fully updated, like fully changed once we actually know how everything is. So make sure to check in on the guide because the video might get slightly out of date on this Sanctified one, right? Hey guys, we also have the push and early bossing. This kind of uses a bit of a different build. I will cover this in a different video because the video is already going to be way too long and this is kind of plays a bit differently, so I'm going to cover it in a different video. If you want to get the bossing done, I put it here. This does roughly 4 to 5 times the damage of the Ancestral one, but you can't really use it for general play because if you don't have enemies, you can't generate resource at all with this build. So it kind of sucks for general play, but for bossing it's really good. So, you know, make sure to kind of change to this if you want to do bossing. So guys, in this build, the weapon we're gonna be using is just gonna be the 200 mace. It's a really huge one, especially with Wallop and Heavy-Handed for multiplayer. Ramaladnis does not need you to use dual wield, so there's no reason to use dual wield at all. And since we're going to be running Grandfather, running polearm is not really that good. especially once you can get more points into all up and stuff like that. 200 mass is just better, it gives you a lot more damage. Alright, mercenary wise, I'm gonna be honest with you, it doesn't really matter that much. I'm personally just going with Variana at this point just to get a bunch of healing, but you can really go with anyone that you want, doesn't matter too much. And reinforcement, as always, I really like to go for Fields of Languish. On the Aldequin, just make it to whatever skill you want, normally Whirlwind, or in our case Lunging is also decent. Whirlwind's probably better, but yeah. Doesn't really matter too much. Again, I'm going mostly for the Taste of Flesh and Variana. You can either go Subo or right here if you prefer, not a big deal. And the damage you would get from Subo on right here or right here, not really that big of a deal. Again, doesn't really matter. I'd rather get a lot of, like, especially this season, surviving can be a bit hard sometimes. Getting this heal, it's quite, you get it quite often because her Whirlwind applies bleeds, her Cleave also applies bleeds. She has bleeds up a good amount of the time, so you get a lot of healing, and Whirlwind hits really fast, so you know, you can hit her a lot, you can hit the enemies a lot and get a lot of healing. But yeah, that's kinda it for Mercenaries, not a lot to talk here. Alright guys, runes. I'm gonna kind of put them all together so we can see kind of where this is going, right? So starting off on the starter, you really want to get that tech rune. Tech rune, you need tech rune for this build to work, alright? You should have tech rune by the point you get to 60, you should have tech rune. Ideally use POC to trigger tech rune. I don't recommend playing it without POC. You technically can, but it's gonna feel a bit wonky. I don't recommend it, alright? The other rune we're gonna be running, Samgar. This is just gonna give you a bunch of crit. Just try to evade every now and again to get that crit chance up. And it will just mean that with 4 procs of this, you can get 25% increased crit chance. It's gonna be really important early on because you don't really have a good amount of sources for crit, especially for earthquakes. Once you go into the Ancestral one, we now are swapping to the back deck. This is gonna be where the rune combo we're gonna be using for most of our build, right? It's just really nice. You just move around, create earthquakes everywhere you go. It's lovely, alright? And the other runes we're gonna be running, Igni Gar. Igni is much better than the same rune we were using earlier to proc Gar. And again, you're really struggling for crit chance. At this point you should be able to get crit cap, but you're gonna be like barely at the edge. Once we go to Mythic, crit is no longer an issue at all. So you can just swap to Igni Ja. Igni Ja is just gonna be making you go around the sanctuary at Mach 10 speed, right? You get the teleport, you get lunging to launch to enemies, you're already doing damage and moving because you're playing Whirlwind, so, you know, just a bit of a cherry on the cake for your movement. Again, the other one, as always, is gonna be back tech. You can technically swap these two around if you want. You can run Igni Tech and back Ja. I don't recommend it because you need to spam Whirlwind, it doesn't feel good to play at all, and they're basically the same thing, so just go with back tech, trust me, it's much better. Consumables. This is something that a lot of people ignore. I get asked a lot of times, especially last season, why is my build not armor cap, not resist cap? This season that doesn't matter as much, but you should still use them. They are basically free. Whenever you use one, you get like 5 from your playtime, 5 worth to craft them, so always try to use them. Especially once you start doing pit pushing and stuff like that, really important there. But even leveling, they are really good to get a good amount of XP. Like they give you what, 5 to 10% extra XP or something like that, totally. It's really nice. Anyway, Elix Curve Resourcefulness, really nice. This helps you deal with any sort of Fury issues, helps a lot. Maximum Resource will also be really great with the Rameladness that we have on the build. And the other ones, Soothing, just very nice, a bit of defenses. Rhythm Buzz, a lot of life. and Spiral Morning. You can go with the one that gives you armor, or not armor, sorry, the one that gives you strength. Either or is good. Honestly, all stats makes it much easier to get the stats threshold, especially early on, but the strength one, technically it is more damage, so go with that. Alright guys, that's gonna be it for the guide. Make sure if you have any questions or anything like that, make sure to leave them down in the comments. I'll try to get to them as much as I can. I'm gonna be releasing the pit pushing, like the push variant, tomorrow or maybe a day after. The video is already too long. I'm still gonna have to edit this to still try to post it today. So yeah, thanks for watching. Leave any comments or questions down below, and hopefully you have fun with the Whirlwind this season, because it's really good. It's not gonna be the best build for Barbarian, but it's still gonna be a very good. It's gonna be one of the best for farming. For pushing, it's gonna be Whirlwind Auto, you know, the classic. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. Leave a like and a comment. YouTuber thing, right? Leave a like and subscribe for more Diablo 4 content and Barbarian content. I'm too tired today for this.